Good morning, good evening. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's very fine today. I will begin today by reading Plus Life, Shokushu number 8. The absolute universe is one. Here, two opposing actions appear, and the relative world is born. This is called yin and yang in the Orient and plus and minus in the West. A bright, vigorous life is called a plus life, and a dark, oppressive one is called minus. Let's work towards a plus life by eliminating all minus ideas from now. So today, our subject is 5 principles of sales. Well, everybody sells something. Everybody has some sort of work. And even if you don't have an actual product that's separate from you, which most people don't, most people are selling their labor or they're selling their expertise, let's say. And no matter what kind of field you're in, you're getting paid for some value that you have, right? So that's what you're selling. However, I think it's important to look at money or the return that you get on your investment of time as a byproduct of that investment. And that you're not actually doing that directly for the money. Of course, we all need money to live, so you will insist on getting paid, but you're not doing it for the money. If you can see there's a very subtle difference here, and it's really critical. And that's really what Toi Sensei is giving us here with all these, with these 5 principles of sales, is how to appreciate the value and quality of what you are selling, whatever it is, and doing the work because you value that so much. So it's really just like training in the dojo. I mean, it's keiko training. You should do your work like it's practice. So both in the dojo and in work, steadiness is the key. Like when we are experiencing mind-body unification in the moment, we are stable, we're steady. And if we're practicing all the time, then all of those moments add up to a very steady person. So the purpose, Toi Sensei says, the purpose of our practice, ergo our life, is to be one with the universe, to be unified, to be steady. So, and many people in work and in the dojo practice tend to attend when things are going their way. They have lots of time in their hand and lots of extra money, and they feel really good about themselves. So they come and they train Aikido, and this is really nice. But when things are going poorly and they're very busy and they're very stressed out, then instead of coming to the dojo, they stay home and do something else. This is a big mistake, because where did the steadiness go? See? The same thing is true with your work. For some people, or for most people, they need to work in order to receive salary, funds to live on. So if you have this sort of lack of steadiness in your character, you like to do things when you feel good, but when you don't feel good, you'd rather be on the couch. If you're that kind of person, then of course, when you have to go to work, then work becomes a job. Work becomes something that you don't like to do, but you feel you have to support your family or to support yourself. And that is no way to live a life, right? So remember that this is, Toi Sensei says, yes, he's talking about sales because we're all involved in that. But look underneath what he says. He's really telling us how to live a plus life, not a minus one. Okay, so before we read those principles, let's take a few moments for some key breathing. All right, let's begin by asking Sayaka Reasoner to read the 5 principles in Japanese for us.
セールスの5原則。1、そのものの値打ちを知る。2、プラスの気で行う。3、買ってくれではなく相手のためになることを信じる。4、必ずアフターケアをする。5、売れないときも帰るときに相手にプラスの心を置いてくる。
Okay, thank you very much. All right, the 5 principles of sales, the original translation. Number 1, know the value of what you're trying to sell. Number 2, approach your customer or client with positive ki. Number 3, focus on customer benefits, not on whether or not they buy. Number 4, always provide responsible after-sale service. 4. And number 5, even when you do not make a sale, always leave a positive impression. Okay, so these are the 5 principles with the new translation. Number 1, understand the value of the product. Number 2, be positive. Number 3, see that the product benefits the customer instead of begging them to buy it. Number 4, always follow up after sales. And number 5, leave a positive impression with the customer, even if you could not sell the product. So number 1, understand the value of the product. So as I was saying before, the product is not always an actual thing. It's much more likely to be your labor, your expertise, your talent, all of your own preparation that you've done, what it is that you're bringing to the job. So on the one hand, it's knowing the value of, in terms of dollars, what you're offering, and number 2, it's not the money value, but the value to the customer. So in other words, there's another kind of value that you're offering, and you are going to get paid for it. So there is a dollar value that you have to put on it. But like I said, that's secondary. The primary thing is helping the person who is your client, and it might be your boss, and it might be someone out in the community, helping your client understand what is the value of what you are offering. So obviously, in order to understand the value, to convince the person of the value, you have to have a deep understanding of the value yourself. And too many people don't appreciate what it is that they're selling, whether, again, that sales is your own expertise or whether that is a product that you're offering. You know, when I was an actor in New York City, Chris Curtis was the product. When you're an actor, it's your own person that you're selling. And actually, I ended up not really liking to do that very much. And that was one of the reasons why I stopped doing that, because I didn't realize yet that you have to do that in everything you do. I don't care if you never or rarely see the person you work for. The few moments that you do see them, or talk to them on the phone, or see them on Zoom, in those moments, those are the critical moments when they will decide whether they trust you or not, whether they appreciate you or not, whether they agree with the value you put on yourself and your work. So in the old days, maybe even when these were written, we had people, sales often meant going door to door selling vacuum cleaners or encyclopedia or selling any kind of product, and you only got paid a commission for how much you sold. So you just were out there to sell as many of them as you could, no matter what. So the people that were really good at that were the people that understood these principles that Toy Sensei is telling us, but understood them as a technique. You see, as a kind of clever way to get the money you needed from the client. Somebody asked me about that recently, at a recent, and I said, oh, well, we'll get to, I think it was Merita, we'll get to sales at some point. And that's where that sort of commercialized kind of sour taste we have about sales. But instead, look at these as your personal practice, as how to be unified with the other person, how to connect with the other person. And so then you can love what you do and not think about the money. Be positive. Goes without saying. When you're trying to trick someone into buying something from you that you don't really think is worth anything, of course, that's negative. So being positive means, I don't like to use the word belief so much, but it's understanding, as Toy Sensei said, understanding the value. Then you can be positive. Number 3, see that the product benefits the customer. And then in Japanese, I heard Sayaka say, instead of begging them to buy it, there is that second part. Myself, I would scratch out that second part. I think that's too negative, but it says what it says. So, and again, it's like number 1, see that the product benefits the customer. So you have to understand for yourself first how it is that it benefits the other person. And again, you're quite often talking about your own self, your own talent, your own expertise, your own labor that you're providing for somebody. So how is that going to benefit the other person? And how do you say it without sounding corny or sounding like you're bragging about something? It's the same thing as in the dojo. You do it because you see the value and you believe in that. And you see how much it's changed your life. And then it's very easy to share that with someone else. Number 4, always follow up after the sales. This is, of course, for the sake of the client, but it's very much in my business, for instance, I do landscape design and construction. And the maintenance part that is us following up. If we're not doing the maintenance from a big landscape design that I've designed, and then my company has installed it, it'll go to the dogs in a matter of a few months if it's not maintained properly. So going back always and being the one, I always insist that my company is the one that maintains it. You know, if I really like what we did, then I want to maintain that. So that's the same thing that we're talking about here. Checking up with the client. You know, I bought a tractor from a guy down, and he never ever called to see how it was doing. And so I had to go see him. That's not good sales. You don't want to have to do that. So leave a positive impression with the customer, even if you could not sell the product. Because it's really you that it's all about. And they will tell somebody else about what a wonderful experience they had with you. And that person may need what it is that you are selling. So particularly in a small community like this, everything is done by word of mouth. Advertising is, well, if some people like to advertise, I can't see why anyone would do it in the kind of community we have. Everything works by word of mouth. So I have never put an ad anywhere over the last 50 years of my company. I don't have to, because we leave a good impression, or at least we do our best to leave a good impression. So anyway, this is my experience with these things. And I must tell you that, repeat what I said last time when we were talking about office work. When I first read these principles, office work and sales, and then the last one, the last of the 5 principles, which is next week, will be management, 5 principles of management. When I saw those 3 sets of principles, I thought, how strange that he's taken time to do this. But then I realized, of course, it's the most important thing in many of our lives, because this is that we spend most of our time working, selling. What it is, whatever we're doing when we're working, we're selling that. So it's very important, and I really appreciate them very deeply now. So now you're going to get a chance to discuss in your groups for 20 minutes with your friends. And I want to just remind you, please don't forget to assign a spokesperson before the 20 minutes is up, so that people aren't wondering, well, who's supposed to speak for my group? When your group is done, you need to know who the spokesperson will be. So who knows to raise their hand, and the moderator will call on you and tell me who's going to speak next. Okay, I will see you in 20 minutes.
Hi, I'm Kayomi. Our group, we have Linda Sensei, Jan, Byron, and Palva Sensei. And we have questions. There are people in the group have shyness about talking about themselves and their products, and that's me too. And I understand the value of the product, and I can make great connection with the customers once I get connected. And I do aftercare as well. But I don't know how to overcome this shyness, when I make initial contact with a person. And how does a unifying mind and body helps to overcome this maybe hesitation or a little bit of embarrassment of talking great about myself and my products?
Okay, that's a really good question. So didn't we talk about this the other night? In other words, I think I mentioned Shinichi Tohei Sensei's weblog, where he talked about how to, when you have to give a talk. So this is the same thing. Nervousness is the same as shyness. When you feel you're being looked at, you can't be unified, because you are objectifying yourself. And then you try to be an object that will please, or that will be right, or correct, or convincing in your sales, or whatever the object is. You cannot do that. We can only do that when we are looking, when we are noticing. So when we're practicing, we're not shy. It's not that we're cured of shyness. I'm not saying it that way. I'm not meaning that. We still might notice that we have the inclination of nervousness or shyness come up. But when we understand that why that is, that we are objectifying ourselves, we're trying to be something that we're not. We're trying to make ourselves be a certain way, but that's not natural. And what you want to experience with the client, or whoever the person is, maybe your employer, is what they're looking for is, who is Kayomi? Who is that really? And so if you're really following these principles here, then you're always thinking about, your mind is on the value of the product, of being positive, of making sure the customer can understand the benefits of this product, always in that sort of state where you're observing what's going on and serving the other person. So if you think about it, this is the only way we can connect with each other. If you're shy, doing this, how can I connect with you? Because this is really guarded. You're really, really afraid to let me see who you really are. And so, of course, the more we practice mind-body unification, the easier it is to transcend a state of shyness or nervousness.
Sensei, I have burning question.
Okay.
Like, so when I'm forward and try to connect with a person, I still feel the sense of like neediness, you know? I need a client, or I need a customers. Like, how do you overcome that? I feel like I want business means I'm needy, no? I have a lot of problem, I think.
No. This is okay, because actually this is a good question, because everybody is facing this, you know, because at some time or another, maybe not all the time, but quite often, people feel, the need to, well, maybe it's to succeed in your business, and maybe it's partly to make enough money to support yourself and for your business to continue on and be profitable and successful. So, it is very important to each of us that we succeed in our business. So if that's looked at incorrectly, from a position of lack or diminishment or doubt or fear, then of course what's going to arise up is a desperate sense of need. But when we feel okay, no matter what happens, it's okay, then it's not so hard to leave the customer with a positive feeling, even if they don't turn out to be your client, because that will make a difference in the community later, because they will remember what a straightforward and honest person you were, and what a delight to talk with, because you weren't so scared, or at least they didn't see it. Okay, so the answer, like always, is practice, practice, practice. Okay, next.
Could we have a question from breakout room 3?
Hello, Sensei. Hello, everyone.
Yes, hello.
I beg your pardon, because I forgot the number of our breakout room.
Yeah, just call by the name. That way it's easier. Okay.
Okay. In my room, there were Sally Worcester, Merte, Toby Fogel Sensei, and Fincher. And our question is, if even you are following these 5 principles, and sometimes a customer wants to take control. For example, if he finds you that you listen, a person who can listen to the customer. So how to solve this problem, how to take control and in the situation and not to collide.
What's the problem?
The problem is if customer takes control, for instance, starts speaking.
Well, why is that a problem?
Because customer can talk for hours.
Well, maybe that's what has to happen. I mean, you don't want to come across as, I don't have time to listen to all of your nonsense. Just be quiet and listen to me because I want to make you, I want to impress you with what a nice guy I am. That is not going to fly, right? So of course, I mean, I do understand what you're saying. I suppose there are times when a client doesn't know when to be quiet and listen. I have a number of clients, as many of you probably do, that are quite wealthy, because clients are often the people with money, right? That we're selling things to, and and they're also on Maui. They're retired, okay? So they were famous CEOs. Let's say they were famous. They had their own company, and so I quite often, this is regularly, my clients want to impress me with how strong and how take control and how type A personality they are. And going along with that is often lots of talking. They don't, maybe, even though they're hiring you to advise them, they might often tell you that they know better than you do what needs to happen in this particular situation. So it takes practice with being around people like that to learn how to serve them without embarrassing them. Because, or yourself, if you do, that's the end of your connection right there. And people like that, they may have very short fuse. They may have very little room for forgiveness. So they want to be with somebody that they feel is serving them sincerely and efficiently, but with great value. So, of course, we have to practice how to do that. And these principles help us do that. So if you're just beginning in business, it's going to be, that's like beginning in the dojo. You're a white belt. So it's going to take some time of practicing to learn how to be with other people in that kind of difficult situation and still have it not bother you. If it bothers you, they'll know it bothers you. And they'll be defensive about that, and they'll feel that you're criticizing them, which of course you are when it bothers you. So everything that we're doing in Aikido, which is how to connect with other people, how to not judge them, is a wonderful experience for learning how to work. Don't you think so? So let's keep practicing. Okay, next person.
Thank you, Sensei.
Sensei, I see that Olaf Schubert Sensei has his hand raised.
Thank you.
Hello, Sensei. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We were in group 7 with Vernon, Alexei, and Christoph. And very different jobs. So we came up with a unifying question, kind of, since we all do Aikido. And if you are in charge of a dojo and you are kind of in the job of selling Aikido to the public. Yeah. So how do we do that? Finding the customers, presenting ourselves, our value, since not everybody is seeing the value or actually the need in doing what we do. How do we present that best? Would be
well,
probably,
of course, these are the principles that we use, right? So yes, you're very right. We are selling Aikido, even if we don't take money for it. If you're a professional, you might be making your living doing it, but for the rest of us, we're amateurs. And, you know, we're not depending on it for financial reasons, but we're depending on it to be able to spread Toi Sensei's teachings, which is our responsibility after all. So there's a wide variety of opinion. Like when I first met Suzuki Sensei, I had to search for the dojo. I wanted to do it, but I couldn't find it, you know, because there was nothing in the yellow pages, but in the white pages there was Maui Aikido, Wailuku Aikido Club under W, right? And the address. And that was it. And when after I started training with Sensei, and I said, you know, we need to, like, let's put ourselves in the yellow pages. That was a start. Absolutely not. It's not necessary. Somebody wants to train with me, they'll show up at the dojo. That's it. Very old-fashioned. But of course, through the years, he became much more amenable. And we actually went out and did a lot of demonstrations for different groups. And we sometimes we would get a new client, a new student as a result of those demonstrations, but usually not. And it's really just a matter of doing public service of without looking. It's like Intoku. You're not looking to get something. You love Aikido so much. I mean, look at what it's done for us, Olaf, in our lives. So all you have to do is just share that with people, because everybody needs this very thing. That's the thing that we need. Even if you're just talking about in business, we all need the same abilities. And those abilities are that steadiness I was talking about, that equanimity, that tada, always. And so when people are with you, if you have that, they feel that. They see that in your eyes. You know, when I asked Suzuki Sensei, when you met Toi Sensei, how did you know, that he was so great? And he said, oh, I'll tell you right now, I saw it in his eyes. His eyes were steady, stable, and not serious. He was a very a jolly fellow when he was younger, more than later. But anyway, so this, what we're doing in Aikido is so beneficial and so necessary, so needed by the general public, that any way we can get the word out is worthwhile. I mean, I think in each culture, maybe you have your own ways. We give introductory courses. I used to teach them. I think now Tracy DeRiesner teaches them, and they're Fincher Sterling. They're just 4 weeks of coming every Thursday night and getting an introduction to Aikido. And you pay a little bit of money, but it's only enough to cover the costs. And you get a book, you get a training manual, and as part of the deal. And then almost half of them or a third of them will then join Aikido. And they don't always last. Aikido's, as you know, takes that kind of steadiness. It's not for everybody. In fact, most people can't hack that, can't handle it. So most people, even though they might recognize the benefit, still are afraid. But I think for the people that are here, they know already. They might be struggling with some steadiness, but generally speaking, everybody knows the value. So yes, we want to reach out and find ways to do that without proselytizing. I mean, people have to invite you. Okay? Does that answer the question? Good. Okay, thank you. All right, next.
Sensei, I see Carlos Boyer Sensei has his hand up.
Okay, great.
Good evening, Sensei.
Hello, Carlos.
I was chosen as the spokesperson of Group 6. We had Melly Stokesbury Sensei, Joni Jackson Sensei, Phoenix, and we had Nadia and her son in our group. Yes, and so we had a very interesting discussion. I think we we realize that none of us really enjoys talking about ourselves too much, especially in the context of delivering a product. However, I think everybody in the group has a deep sense of the value of the product that they are delivering. But I'll give you one comment that we had. It just seemed to come up with the different people that were talking. In terms of the results, let's say we're all providing a service rather than an object that we're selling. We're providing a service. So is it possible to be too concerned with the results? In other words, we're maybe in a sense overachievers in some way. We want good results, and we don't always get good results, not every single time, because it's a service rather than a thing that we're selling. Right. So is it possible to be too concerned there?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, of course, I really like what you said about you're not always going to get good results. If you're providing a service where you're maintaining a certain level of quality for people, everybody's not going to see it that way. There's going to be, sometimes you'll be a hero, but other times you'll be a goat. And you have to learn how to be a pleasant person and supportive, even when your employees maybe have made a terrible mistake, or you personally have left something critical out of the program that inadvertently, right? Or maybe it's just in the mind of the beholder, which is quite often the case with these, retired people who, yeah, can be very demanding. But they're our clients, so they're the ones we don't want to look for. Well, no, I only like the easy clients where they really like me and they'll put up with anything, no matter how stupid I am. They'll, no. That's crazy. That's like wanting only pleasure and refusing to have any pain. No. The whole point of learning to be in business is learning equanimity. To be steady. I love that word, steady, today. So being always on your game, being always there for the other person, always willing to listen. If you have the idea that your client talks too much, I mean, we were talking about this with Andre. So you got a problem. That's a serious problem that you have. They don't have that problem. They're your client. You have that problem. So we have to get over ourselves in that way. It's like Suzuki. This is maybe sound unrelated, but it's not at all. Suzuki Sensei told me many times, when you have a student that comes and wants to train with you, and the first thing he tells you is what was wrong with his other teacher, do not let him train with you. Do not accept him as a student, because guaranteed you're his next victim. So there are times when you have to, when we just say, like, my daughter is taking over the company, there are times when we just decide, okay, we'll say no, we won't take them as a client, because people can be just too difficult. So if you're needy, like Kayomi was talking about, if you're desperate, you're likely to take clients that you really shouldn't be taking. If you're desperate as a teacher, Olaf, you don't want to be taking students that are really, you can't really help, that are not there for you to help. This was kind of the old, I don't do this anymore, but I used to teach the intro class, and the first thing I would say to them is, if any of you are in here to learn how to throw someone to learn how to defeat someone, to learn how to win. There's the door. Leave now. Yeah. It was a little harsh. I don't do that anymore. But you see, but I didn't know that what I was really trying to do is be positive, but it was negative. So I had to learn how to be positive about it. So instead of, that, then we offer the beauty of what we have that we're experiencing. And if it really is happening to you as you're speaking it, so there you go. Everyone will like it, I think, pretty much. Thank you.
Could we have a question from breakout room 4? That's Joelle, Lynn Sensei, Roy, and Tracy Reasoner Sensei.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Sensei. So we had a good group, as Lena stated. Joelle talked about how she never sold a painting for the first 10 years of her life. She was truly a starving artist. And, like I was saying that it's kind of, art is kind of like Aikido. It's priceless. You can't really put a price on art. Like you can't put a price on teaching Aikido. And Roy talked about how he learned sales as a grocery bagger a long time ago, and how his manager always said the customer's always right, and always follow up with the customers as to make that connection with the customer. Yeah. So, we talked about how people would sell a house and they connected with their customer so well, they'd get generations and generations of sales from that one family. Lynn brought up an interesting point regarding teaching Aikido to children and how she interacted with parents who came to the dojo, and about how she didn't have to really talk about selling it because she was so passionate about it, and about how she talked about the benefits of it to the parents. She really didn't have to talk about money because she basically said, hey, we're not professionals here. We're all amateurs. We're all volunteers. The dues basically go to support the structure we're training in. And which brings me to a question. And that question is, anytime you connect sales, you think about money. And then, of course, you think about time, and about how really it comes down to, everybody's time has value, and how do you, institute a boundary with your time and money? Does that make sense? My question come across there, Sensei?
I hear what you're saying. I ask you a question in return.
Sure.
Why would you want to put a boundary on your time and your money? You know what? Well, you need to be generous hearted with your time and your money. You need to be tight with your love. It's not the other way around. Give your time away, all of it, every single moment, for nothing. You'll be a wealthy man, because everyone will love you and you will love them. Okay, so those are two extremes, okay? So putting a boundary, or having even the idea to limit how much you give to something that you're passionate about. That as you said, the value is infinite, it's inestimable. We can't decide. You can't put a dollar value on it. So then how much do you give? Well, you can't do that. You can't do a boundary. It's not a thing you set a boundary. It's a thing that it automatically, your life will give you the boundaries. In other words, you give every moment you have and every dollar you have to help out others. And what's left is for you. And, we're all not, you're a very bright guy, you're not gonna not be able to pay your rent because you gave all the rent money away. I mean, of course you budgeted, you figure it out. But to have the mindset is, I think is what I'm saying. John talked about this really well one day. To have the mindset to judge for yourself. You know, the worst thing, the worst words that can pass your lips when you're a student of Aikido is, I don't think I have time for that. I'm too busy already. I'm already doing too much for this organization. I'm already giving too much time and money here. Okay, so you shouldn't really even be doing it if you have that kind of mindset. So that's why when I say I would go the other direction, be very generous as much as possible. You know, remember, we don't all have the same amount of money at our disposal, so some of us can make gestures that seem grandiose, and others are not able to make that gesture. But maybe what a less advantaged person gives maybe has much more value, not in dollars and cents, but much more value than what a wealthy person gives. And I often see, I have to say this, I often see people that don't have much money giving a little bit and not expecting anything. And people with lots and lots of money giving a big donation and wanting to be praised up for it. They won't say it, but I can see that they really want credit for that. And so that also says something about us. Okay, well, so we have to get everybody, so thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go on. Are there more, Ilima?
Sensei, I think we've heard from all the breakout rooms,
Oh, okay.
but and someone please jump in if I'm wrong about that, but I actually had a follow-up question for you if you have a little more time.
Yes, please.
So I think what I hear you talking about a lot, whether we're talking about business or Aikido, is relationship building with the client and the importance of creating a strong relationship with the client or the student. But as you alluded to earlier, sometimes those relationships have to end, and anyone who's been in business long enough has been in the position of firing a client because they weren't right for you for whatever reason. So can you talk about how we can approach ending those business relationships in a way that preserves the relationship with, you know, that honors the relationship in the same way that we do when we're trying to get a client for the first time?
Yes. Well, you know, there's the other side of that it does happen, as you suggest, that we have to fire a client. But more often, it might happen that the firing is the other way around, that the client fires us because of it. Usually in my business, and I think in most people's business, it's not because they don't see the value of what you're offering, but you're maybe more expensive than the other person, and they're on a board of directors who is value dollar oriented, and that's just the way it is. So you might lose them. So it's very important. I practice, even if I've received a letter that means that has something not pleasant in it when they're firing me, or maybe I fired them and then I got a response from them that wasn't so good. So how I respond at that point is really important. So I never do it as soon as I get the letter, or as soon as I get the phone call, or as soon as I'm told by my office that we're losing this client, or this client is unhappy because he's feeling dismissed because you fired them. So then I wait 24 hours at least, sometimes more, and then I'll write a nice, kind of friendly, rambling letter that just says how much fun I had with them and how much I appreciated training with them. And you know, it's not phony. I can't do it if it's phony. I mean, I find that I pretty much even if they've got something about them that maybe my employees can't stand, I find something and I just talk about that. There's always something. Plus, like Melly was talking about someone in the family, drives you crazy. But there's always something that you can agree with them on. There's always something that you can. So that's your responsibility as a business person, I think, is to be positive no matter what, to leave them with a great impression, even if they're leaving you, whether it's because they're firing you or you're firing them. As the result is you're going to part ways. And in this community on Maui, I think it's really, really important to never utter a cross word, to never express the part of you that might be weak and disturbed. Disturbance is always weakness. Look at our president. He's okay, never mind. That's politics. But you see what I mean there, though. I mean, when you as a business person are upset with your client, that's because you're missing something. You might see that you don't fit, like you expressed that, I think, in the beginning, that the two of you just don't, it doesn't work. So you don't take them on as a client, or if you did already, you might have to say goodbye. But you can do it in a way that, of course, supports them, because they're going to have to move on and find somebody else to do that. You might even have some suggestions of your friends that do the same kind of thing, And while we're talking about that, in the dojo, there's also you cannot expect that every student that comes in is going to be loving your teaching. There's some that just it isn't going to be a fit for them. And there are times, there've only been 2 or 3 times in my whole career, where 50 years, where I've had to ask a student to leave. That's very rare. But I've had lots of students just quit. So I think it's much more likely that the student will see that this isn't something that fits for them. Maybe it's just because it's too much, it's a lot to ask of a student to start practicing. I mean, spending their whole life in delusion. You can't expect somebody to, get on the bandwagon right away. So we have to accept that that's going to happen a lot. We could go on and on. This is a really interesting subject, and you can really see why Toi Sensei did the 5 principles of sales, because it really hits home with everybody. This is something we're daily, moment by moment, almost, we're concerned with, and we need to pay attention to. So thank you for your attention. And thank you, Ilima, for moderating tonight. And take care, and I will see you all Sunday. Aloha. Domo arigatou gozaimashita.